Welcome, everyone, to the other side of medicine. I am Dr. James D. Christosic, and we're glad that you're with us. And today we're going to take a deep dive into a subject that could change your health, could change your life. We're going to uncover the three most common types of gut health problems that silently could be causing chronic disease because so many people are walking around with gut disturbances, and unbeknownst to them or their doctors, their gut problems are causing systems throughout the entire body to have problems, and chronic illnesses set in because of what's going on in the gut. The gut is basically where we have nutrients that are absorbed and waste matter eliminated. And if that is not done in an efficient manner, then disease starts to manifest throughout the entire body. So if you are a first-time listener, we'd like to welcome you to the other side of medicine. We're glad that you're spending time with us. I just want to make sure here that, yeah, we are live. I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss a beat here and miss out on recording this. So we are live on social media right now, and we always rebroadcast the podcast on Friday mornings on all the podcast platforms, the major podcast platforms. So I encourage you to look at that. If you miss it on Thursdays live on social media, you can catch it on Friday mornings throughout the day and throughout the week, because on our website we also post our podcasts there on our website, so you can see those on a regular basis. Let me just go ahead and take a minute here to organize something. There we go. Okay, so as I said, we're going to be talking about the three types of gut health issues that many people are suffering with, millions of people are suffering with. And what are those three types? Well, the first one is a toxic gut. A toxic gut is very, very common, and we'll dive deep into that, but it's caused from the foods that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat. And then we have a stressed out gut, which again is pretty common sense to think about how stress can affect the gut, because the gut has the vagus nerve attached to it. It goes right up into the brain. So there's a brain communication with the gut. It's called the brain gut axis, and that can trigger lots of problems from stress causing problems in the gut, and vice versa. Problems in the gut reversing and causing problems in the brain. And then last but not least, we also have problem with gut that could be triggered by inflammation. Inflammatory gut, that's another common problem that people experience, the inflammation inside the gut. And we don't want to leave any of those stones unturned. Every one of those, I'm going to fix my screen here so I can get a better, there we go. Any one of those three types of gut health problems can literally lead into chronic diseases. So we don't want to leave any of those stones unturned. We want to find out what is the root cause. Why are we having these types of experiences? What is triggering them? And what can we do to unravel these problems and find the root cause? So once again, they all three have something in common, and that's called the leaky gut. We'll talk some about the leaky gut tonight, but you can get a lot of information about the leaky gut on my website and our social media posts. We talk a lot about it, but the leaky gut is something that's common to all three. And this can be the underlying root cause for a lot of health problems, but all three of these type of gut problems have something in common, and that's the leaky gut. So let's first of all look at the one I think that's pretty common, that's a lot of people are experiencing, because here in America we eat a lot of garbage foods, a lot of junk foods, and we're exposed to a lot of pollution. So the toxic gut is I guess maybe you make a reference to it like a polluted swamp. You're overloaded with harmful substances inside the body. And those harmful substances come from a lot of places. They come from food, they come from the air, from the water, from medications, from all these sources that they actually start to damage the lining of the gut. When you damage the lining of the gut, what do you get? Well, you get leaky gut. So then you also disturb the friendly bacteria inside the gut. And those friendly bacteria provide a lot of compounds that are very healing to the body, nourishing to the body, and restorative to the body. So if we damage those gut bacteria, we're really harming ourselves, because their protective and preventative measures that they do inside of our body are profound. But we don't want to mess those up, and we don't want to unleash those harmful bacteria, which we do when we end up getting this leaky gut. We end up having these toxic bacteria that could start to form inside of our gut. And when we do that, we have a lot of other problems that are not very, very pleasant. People are taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like candy anymore because people are in pain all the time. They've got a lot of inflammation. So detoxifying the gut is paramount when we look at the gut problem with this toxic gut. So we have to look at how do we detoxify the body. We'll talk a little bit about that. But then the second type is inflammatory type of a gut illness. And the inflammatory gut is like a house that's always on fire. And you are under attack from food sensitivities and imbalances in the gut, because again, the leaky gut. And when we have these food insensitivities or food allergies, it triggers again the leaky gut, which then leads to harmful bacteria and unleashes the whole fiery inflammatory response inside the body. Because when you have that leaky gut and you allow the toxins from the harmful bacteria that proliferate because you damage the lining of the gut, then those toxins from the bacteria, they can leach into the bloodstream. In our digestive tract, on the lining of the gut, that's where nutrients are absorbed. But if you have damage to that lining, then you could allow larger than normal protein particles to get in there into the bloodstream, or toxins from harmful microorganisms. They enter into the blood. And what that then is unleashes inflammatory responses from the body. The body releases this cascade of inflammatory reactions. And then that circulates throughout the entire body and drops off in the joints. It drops off in the organs. It drops off in your brain. It drops off all throughout the body, those inflammation chemicals, those inflammatory compounds. And then we end up having pains in the joints. We have migraine headaches. We have fatigue. We have inflammation in the colon, which can lead into autoimmune diseases. There's so many things that could happen from that inflammation that's unleashed throughout the entire body from the toxic or the inflammatory gut problem. So we don't want to have these inflammatory compounds circulating in the body. You know, we have people who are allergic to cow's milk products or wheat and gluten products. Those are real common ones. But what people don't know is that any food can become a trigger if you have a leaky gut. And if you eat those foods on a regular basis, then you'll end up having these inflammatory compounds circulate throughout the entire body, because you're eating the foods that your body now is reacting to. And so you're eating these foods on a regular basis and you're flooding the body with these larger than normal size proteins, and that triggers the inflammatory response and the cascade of those compounds going through the bloodstream. It's just a really milieu of harmful substances circulating in the blood, and then, as I said, ending up in different parts of the body. Not a good thing. So we want to quiet or squelch the inflammatory response inside the body. And we'll talk about how to do that, because we can do that with an elimination diet, which is very tedious, or we can do something that's much simpler by doing a blood test, which I've done thousands of blood tests on my patients to identify which foods they're reacting to. And we can then eliminate those foods just for 3 months. That's it, a 3-month elimination diet. But once we do that, then the inflammation, it just basically quiets down, and inflammation is beginning to get, quieted and soothed. The body starts to get soothed. The inflammatory response goes down inside the body. The antibodies which circulate in the blood are not flooding the bloodstream, so they start to clear out, and then the body stops producing inflammatory compounds. And then you start having this symptoms recede, which is really a nice thing to happen. So we then have to heal the leaky gut. So those are things that have to happen simultaneously. You just can't do one thing at a time. You have to do them. You have to do them all simultaneously. And then the last one we have is a stressed gut. Now, this is something that happens a lot here in America, because not only in America, but all around the world, but in our country, we have a lot of stress. And there's a saying that people say, it's like a bank card. You can't leave home without it, or you can't stay home without it. It's there all the time. So we want to understand that it's not about the foods that you're eating that causes the stressed out gut. Although the foods will compound the problem, it's about the emotional traumas, the lack of rest, the leaky gut that forms, and the chronic stress that people are, have a work overload, and the family stresses and the work stresses, and they just compound. And when you have that release of those emotional bursts, you have cortisone, which is inflammatory in its nature, which is a hormone, cortisol. That's released when you have stress, and that begins to damage the lining of the gut, and that's how you get the leaky gut. So we want to quiet that down. We want to use foods. Again, we have to personalize the diet. Why? Well, because when you have the leaky gut, which all three of these conditions, these three gut types, will cause a leaky gut, well, then you're going to have, again, the larger than normal size protein particles. See, let me explain this. Normal digestion occurs inside the small intestines, where we have not full protein compounds, but we have amino acids get broken down. The protein gets broken down into amino acids. They're smaller constituents, and those amino acids get absorbed in the small intestine. Problem being is, if you have a leaky gut, then large protein molecules, not amino acids, because amino acids make up proteins. The amino acids get normally absorbed, but now with a leaky gut, you have protein molecules get absorbed into the bloodstream, and that triggers an immune response. And that triggers the release of these inflammatory compounds that, again, circulate in the body and the blood. And then we end up having the cascade of symptoms again. So what do? We eliminate the foods. We try to help people to understand that they have to take a proactive role in managing their stress in their life, so that then we can get to the root cause of what the reason it's happening. And we give you lifestyle modifications, and we give you different techniques that we'll talk a little bit more about coming up soon here. But I just want to give you an overview right now. But the point being is you have to have these stress reduction techniques implemented in your life so that the continuation of the root cause, which is the stress, whether it's emotional or whether it's overworking, at your job, or it's not getting enough rest. Any of these number of things can be causing the stressors in the body. You have to find ways to remove those stressors or find ways to live within the parameters around those stresses and cope with them and find coping skills. And you could do a lot of things like deep breathing is something that I tell all my patients to try to do all day long. Train yourself to do deep breathing. We'll talk more about that. But then there's herbs that you can take too. Those are as well something that you can do. So then we've got the stress gut. We talked about that. We've got the inflammatory gut, and then we also have the toxic gut. So let's look a little bit about each one of those, of how each one of those are going to be manifesting. How do they show up, and what kind of are some of the signs that we have inside the body? What kind of signals does the body give us when we have these type of toxic guts, for example? First of all, brain fog is a real common one. Your thinking gets foggy and you're not able to think clear. That's brain fog. And you have low energy. You have chronic bloating and gas. Bad breath, that's another sign. And body odors. You have skin problems. You could have eczema or rashes. And you could have stubborn weight gain. How many people in America are overweight? Especially around the belly. When you have that belly weight, that's a classic sign of a toxic gut very often. And again, what happens is those harmful bacteria begin to manifest because you got the leaky gut. And that leaky gut then allows these toxins to get in there, and those toxins are irritants. They're irritating the gut lining, which then damages it. And then you have these compounds. Harmful bacteria releases toxic elements that gets in your bloodstream. You have inflammatory compounds that are generated from those bacteria, and that circulates in the blood. There you go. You've got the circular activity again. It continues to trigger chronic symptoms. And the common causes, we talked a little bit earlier, processed foods, a lot of sugar foods. Americans are addicted to sugar. You have cravings for sugar, and these bacteria are one of the main reasons why people have cravings for sugar. It's not you that's craving, it's something else. It's the microorganism. They're causing you to have these cravings because they feed off of sugar. Well, and bad oils, that's another one. People are eating these seed oils like sunflower and safflower and corn oil and canola oil. And they're eating those oils that are refined. And now that's the key word, refined. Because when you get these oils, when they're cold pressed and they're expeller pressed, you're not going to have those kind of problems. It's just the fact that people are eating the oils that are refined. They're heated to extraordinary high temperatures. They're called hydrogenated oils, and they add toxic chemicals to them. And then we get these oils, and it causes toxicity inside the body. So we end up having that as a problem. We end up having food additives and food colorings and food preservatives and all these sweeteners and all these things that are added into foods to get people addicted to them. Those add to the toxic burden inside the body as well. So it's, again, you have to take a proactive role. You have to participate in your health and well-being by doing things that are going to eliminate those toxic elements and be able to help your body to be able to heal itself. We can do that, especially if we are around a support community. And let me just take a moment here to tell you about our Gut 911 prescription community. This is a perfect segue for me to share this, because this is not something that the average person can do on their own. You're surrounded by people at home, at work, at your school, wherever you're at, that are consuming these toxic foods all day long, and you're tempted. And so if you're the only person that's bringing a healthy lunch to work, if you're the only person that's walking away from the dinner table and don't eat the sugar-laden desserts, it's not easy to do. But we have a, a support system to help you to, to overcome these challenges by participating in our Gut 911 prescription community. It's free. Not so many things that are free today, but this Gut 911 prescription community is absolutely free. And I've just put it together recently, and we're forming this group. We have about 35, 40 members right now, but I suspect that in the next year or two, we'll have thousands of members, and we'll be able to have people helping each other. And then I bring my expertise to the community, and I share with you books that I've written and courses that I have for free. And I have every 2 weeks, I have a question and answer period live on Monday evenings. And I have a specific topic that I give a presentation on for 20 minutes. And then we open it up for questions and answers. So this is a great way for you to get reinforced, to get support from a community of like-minded people just like you, who are struggling with their health, that are tempted around in their environment every single day of people eating junk food and not exercising and just living like couch potatoes. This community is people who are trying to make a difference, trying to help each other out, support each other, encourage each other. And by the way, that's how I got started over 50 years ago, inside of a community of people at a college, Hiram College, out here in Northeast Ohio. And we had a college professor named Al Couch, who came together once a week on Wednesday evenings, and he shared with us information about organic foods and organic farming and natural living. And everybody in the community came together, and we learned from each other, and we supported each other. I looked forward to it every week. So I hope you take advantage of our Gut 911 prescription community, so that you can get the same input. You can get the same charge of I guess, encouragement to keep you on the straight and narrow path on eating healthy foods. And, each week it gives you an incentive to go to the next week, so you can continue to live naturally and live healthily, so your body can have a chance to heal itself. And that's what we want for you. That's what we want, so that you can take advantage of the healing power of the body. So you have to eliminate the fast foods to get rid of the toxic gut. The toxic gut is triggered by these refined carbohydrates, white sugar, white flour, all the refined grains. And you have to support the liver. You can do that with things like milk thistle, an herb, which is a very powerful cleanser, help to get rid of toxins out of the body. They've done experiments where they took rats that they actually fed them strychnine, which should have killed them instantaneously. This is a research study, and they gave the rats the strychnine. They should have died immediately, but they just simultaneously gave them the milk thistle extract, and the rats didn't die. It's pretty powerful. So if it can get rid of the toxic elements and not to kill the rats, it certainly can help our livers. And research has shown that it does do that. So drinking lemon water and drinking just water in general, half your weight in ounces of water will flush out toxins. Eating green leafy vegetables and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. And don't forget, broccoli sprouts. Broccoli sprouts have up to 100 times more nutrients than the actual broccoli itself. And that's got good documentation and research to prove that. Harvard University did stuff on researching broccoli sprouts. And this is what we talk about in our Gut 911 community, the research, science-based evidence. We don't just go by what grandma said about natural healing. Oh, grandma had some good ideas. We base everything we do here on solid science-backed information. So using things like spirulina and chlorella, those are very good cleansing superfoods. And using things like bentonite clay. I was introduced to bentonite clay over 50 years ago. I used a product called Green Life, and they have a bentonite liquid that we would take, and I still take to this day on a regular basis to help to get rid of toxins. Because bentonite is a clay that actually, it's a dirt, it's a clay that pulls toxins, and they have a food grade bentonite supplement that pulls and draws toxins out of your body. It flushes them out through the elimination system. So bentonite clay, charcoal is another thing you should be using. Charcoal is another way to help to detoxify your body. The Center for Disease Control has charcoal in their universal antidote for getting rid of poisons. What do they have in it? Charcoal. So you can use that to your advantage on a regular basis to flush out toxins if you are suspect, if you have a toxic gut, a toxic colon. Also, you want to incorporate herbs, like I said earlier, milk thistle and dandelion root and burdock. These are all herbs that flush out toxins out of the body. And then you could also use fermented foods to help the beneficial bacteria to proliferate, and the beneficial bacteria do another number on pulling out toxins out of the body. So this is cooperating with already what the body has in it. So that's how you can help a toxic gut. Now let's move into the inflammatory gut. This is another big one. A lot of people are walking around and they have this constant siege of inflammation that just circulates throughout their entire body. People with repeated chronic infections. That's a really good thing. I talked about all this past week about chronic infections, people who have wounds that won't heal, people that have chronic diseases like SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Any of these chronic conditions, inflammatory bowel disease, another good one. People with autoimmune diseases, that's another good one. Those conditions, those chronic conditions that doctors keep on pushing drugs on you, like when you have chronic infections, very common. Let's talk about common infections in the gut, like C. difficile, which is a life-threatening bacterial infection, which many people have multiple episodes of it, and they end up having these inflammatory compounds that are released from these harmful bacteria that circulate into the blood and are devastating to the entire body. They're called lipopolysaccharides, these toxic elements from bacteria. And these lipopolysaccharides, as a matter of fact, I'm going to do a whole segment, a whole episode of the Other Side of Medicine podcast on lipopolysaccharides and how devastating they are to the body, every system of the body. And when you have chronic conditions, repeated infections like C. difficile or H. pylori, you certainly are somebody who's a candidate to have a biofilm, which is a coating or a mucus coating that encases a community of microorganisms that live together, not only bacteria, but could be viruses, could be parasites, it could be yeast, all living together. And they have this protective outer coating that antibiotics can't break through. And that's why they're called antibiotic resistant microorganisms. But herbs can break those biofilms, those mucus layers, because it meant there can be very many layers, not just one. And the herbs break through them, through those biolayers, those biofilm layers, and then you can expose the microorganisms and come in with herbs that will actually kill off the harmful microorganisms. So if you don't take proper precautions to do the things that we're talking about here tonight, you're going to be treated with medications over and over again. And these conditions are going to escalate, and you have these repeated infections and chronic conditions and autoimmune diseases. They're just linger on, and people go to their graves suffering with them, with these degenerative illnesses. But you have to put out the fire first. And that's what we talk about here with this inflammatory gut, to get rid of the triggers that cause inflammation at its source. That's the key, getting at its source. Well, what are the signs of an inflammatory gut? Well, you've got abdominal pain, you've got gas or bloating. Again, these are common things that happen with gut issues in general, but once again, they happen with an inflammatory gut too. You have brain fog again, anxiety and mood swings. Remember, we talked about the connection between the gut and the brain. Well, you have mood swings, you could have depression, anxiety, you have achy joints, you could have muscle pains, you could end up having fatigue and food cravings even after meals. You just ate a meal and you're craving more food, you're craving sugar. This is an inflammatory gut. These are common signs of somebody who has an inflammatory type of a gut. Then what are some of the triggers? Well, foods are one of the major triggers. But when we have the leaky gut, you end up having food allergies. Now, this is not the type of allergy that the typical allergist looks at, which is what's called an IgE reaction. Those are what we call immediate reactions. We're not talking about that right now, although those are a problem. We're talking about delayed reactions from inflammatory gut. A delayed reaction, you could eat a food like, for example, a gluten grain, or it could be dairy food or an egg, or it could be something as innocent as a tomato or some brown rice, or something as innocent as a potato. And you could have a reaction to it if you have a leaky gut. Once again, because you've set yourself up for these protein molecules to invade the bloodstream through the gut. And so all the foods that are the common foods, like soy and wheat and all the gluten grains and dairy and tomatoes, the citrus fruits, those are real common ones that people have. And you want to identify those foods that people are reacting to. Eggs is another one. You want to identify those. And the quickest way to do it is through a blood test. I've done thousands of blood tests for these hidden food allergies. And it really saves you a lot of frustration and challenges to do what many times people hear about, an elimination diet, which works. You can do an elimination diet to identify these food allergies, but it's very tedious. Takes a long time, and you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to have a lot of discipline to do it. But instead of doing it that way, I just tell people, instead of guessing, test. Don't guess, test. And that's what we do. We identify the foods that the person's reacting to. We eliminate them just for 3 months. That's it. After 3 months, we can put them back into the diet, rotate them in the diet, because we're going to heal the leaky gut and give the body a chance to restore it. And then we can go back and we can work on putting back those foods on a rotation basis. So people have these inflammatory reactions because of parasites even. You could have parasites. They come in on the food. Could have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that releases inflammation, once again, from the toxic bacteria. Small intestinal bacteria overgrowth is when you have bacteria living in larger quantities in the small intestine. There shouldn't be very many bacteria in the small intestines. The large intestines has trillions of bacteria. The small intestine should have few to none. But when you have a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, then those bacteria release toxins and you have inflammation again that precipitates. So yeast infections, that's another one. Candida, which is very common. And you get this because people are taking medications like antibiotics over and over again. And it sets up the situation where you have this overgrowth of these yeast microorganisms and harmful bacterial microorganisms. And as I said, even parasites. Chronic stress will actually amplify it. You know, we talked about we're going to talk about the stress gut, but this can be amplified by stress, not the cause, but it's amplified. And then you could have things like the bad oils. I talked about that earlier. The bad oils, the processed oils, when you see a partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated oil, or it just says canola or sunflower, that's hydrogenated. It's damaged. It's heated to extremely high temperatures, up to 500 degrees. And then they add chemicals to it. And when they do that, it becomes very harmful, and they cause what's called oxidation. And they damage cells inside the body, including the lining of the gut. They damage cells throughout the entire body, and the brain and the skin, everywhere. So don't eat those oils, my friends. Eat expeller pressed, cold pressed oils. Only use things like extra virgin olive oil and raw coconut oil. If you're going to use any seed oils, make sure it says expeller pressed or cold pressed. Those are the kind of oils that you want to have inside of your body. You don't want to end up with these processed oils, which are going to cause many complications. Now, you have to restore the beneficial bacteria. It's part and parcel of any of these 3 types of guts. You have to restore beneficial bacteria. And how do you do that? Well, you eat first foods, because food is your best medicine. And you eat foods that are fermented. People have been doing it for thousands of years. And if you haven't eaten fermented foods in the past, whether you have SIBO or whether you have irritable bowel or whether you have a stress gut or any of the 3 types of guts, doesn't matter. You have to experiment, and you can eat them and introduce these fermented foods slowly to see if your body tolerates them. So I would suggest starting off with maybe just a teaspoon. Try that for a meal. And then go maybe to a tablespoon and try that again and see how you do. Sometimes you'll end up having gas or bloating because of you're introducing them too fast. But if you do it slow, it doesn't typically happen. Most people can introduce them slow without any problem. So I would encourage, try that first. And then increase it as your body permits it. As you can see that you're not having symptoms. And you'll notice as you introduce more fermented foods, you'll have better bowel movements. You'll have less symptoms of gas and bloating, because now you've seeded your body with what we call probiotics, because beneficial bacteria will make probiotics. These are very beneficial because they release really good, very good compounds. Compounds like, they're called short chain fatty acids, like butyrate. Butyrate is one of the short chain fatty acids that helps to heal the lining of the gut. Again, that leaky gut, we want to heal that. So butyrate, a compound made by beneficial bacteria, will actually help to heal the lining of the gut. Now, if fermented foods cause any gas or bloating for you, then back off on them until we can get rid of the harmful bacteria. And you can take some supplements like butyrate that actually will not trigger the gas and the bloating. And you can use those supplements that will help to get rid of the harmful bacteria and heal the lining of the gut. So not all butyrate is created equal, though, because many and most actually of butyrate supplements are in a form of a whole butyrate molecule, which doesn't get past the stomach. It gets broken down in the stomach, and you want to get it to the small intestines, but most of them don't make it there, or very few molecules of the butyrate get there. But there are special forms of butyrate that I use in my practice. If you're interested, just text me a message or go into our Gut 911 community, and I'll tell you which butyrate supplement to use that gets into the small intestine and is able to do its work there in a profound way. And it has many other benefits. But we want to talk all about butyrate tonight. I've done many videos on butyrate on our social media, and they're also inside of our Gut 911 community. So again, you want to soothe the gut. You want to get tested for the food sensitivities, eliminate the foods out of your diet that are triggering allergic reactions, help to heal the lining of the gut with things like aloe vera. Aloe vera gel is what I like to use. And you would use 2 tablespoons of aloe vera gel on an empty stomach, about 30 minutes before your meals, an hour and a half after. Aloe vera gel on an empty stomach, and do that twice a day. And that will help to heal the lining of the gut. Remember, all 3 of these types of gut issues have a leaky gut. So you want to take the aloe vera gel twice a day. And make sure you get a good quality one. The one I use is called Lily of the Desert, and I get the gel. Again, that's getting a good quality one is very important. And then you want to make sure that you're using the anti-inflammatory compounds found in foods and herbs. So eat an anti-inflammatory diet, fresh fruits and vegetables. Eat a primarily plant-based diet. The healthiest populations on the planet, they're living in what we call the blue zones, and those people are eating 90% of their diet comes from plant-based. 10% may come from fish or from chicken or turkey, but that's it. Very small quantities of it, of the protein molecules, are used from animal sources. Now, you're going to get protein in vegetables and fruits and beans and nuts and seeds and grains. You're going to get plenty of protein. You know, meat doesn't have to be part of your diet. You can eat it if you want, but eat small quantities, because meat releases compounds that the bad bacteria feed off of. You don't want to feed those bad bacteria. And plants help to get rid of them because they got these natural compounds in them that are feed the good bacteria, and the good bacteria battle against the bad and get rid of them. Then in the long run, you're going to be better off. So also, you can use herbs like slippery elm bark. That's one of my favorites. And marshmallow root is another one. You can drink those teas, and they help to soothe and heal the lining of the gut. Zinc carnosine. It's a special form of zinc that research has validated helps to heal the leaky gut. Zinc carnosine. And then also you want to eat the fermented foods, and you may even want to use a probiotic for a short period of time to help to kind of boost and it kind of prime the pump, so to speak, of the bacteria inside your gut. So use a probiotic temporarily for a short period of time. I don't like to use probiotics for a long period of time. As a matter of fact, research has shown at Stanford University that people who take probiotics for extended periods of time actually have the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria, decrease inside the gut. The levels of beneficial bacteria actually go down. So don't use probiotics for extended periods of time. Food is the best medicine. Now, we want to talk about the last type of gut, which is the stressed gut. You know, there's an old saying, you know, with a credit card, you can't leave home without it, right? Well, stress is very similar. You can't leave home without it, and you can't stay home without it. You're going to find it everywhere, at home, at work, and wherever you're at, you're going to find stress. We're all exposed to it. It's how you cope with the stress that will make all the difference in the world. And so eating a clean diet is not going to help you at all if you have a stressed out gut. If you're always anxious and full of stress that's not being managed, you could be eating all the clean diet that you want. You could be doing exercises and everything. And if you are not managing the stress, if you're not getting rid of the stress, even if you're eating organic foods and you're eating clean, your body's still going to be in that fight or flight mode. And you're going to slow down digestion. You're going to end up with bloating and gas again. You're going to have a slower detoxification process going on inside your body. And the stress response weakens your immune system. And so you end up having a higher propensity towards food sensitivities and food allergies. And then, you're not going to be absorbing the nutrients like you really should. And you're not going to get the rest that you need. And your body rhythms are going to be off, and your nervous system is going to be overreacting to every little stress. So it's going to just compound. And so what signs do you have when you've got a stressed gut? Well, got alternating constipation and diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, classic signs, anxiety and irritability or depression, very common with the stressed gut. You've got poor sleep patterns, and even though you get possibly a good night's sleep, you're still fatigued in the morning. You have digestion that's impaired, it's weakened, and then you end up with the food sensitivities we talked about earlier. Well, you've got to manage the stress. That's the root cause. And taking medications for depression and anxiety, it's not getting to the root cause. It's only just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. Let's get to the root cause. Jump inside of our Gut 911 prescription community and learn how to manage stress. We give you techniques. We give you ways that you can go through your day, even though you're bombarded with stress, and be able to just let it just roll off you. Just roll it right away. But if you just try to do it alone, it's going to be difficult. You're going to be tempted to end up taking some medication because everybody else around you is taking medication. Don't just grab another pill. Grab your computer, jump in onto the Gut 911 prescription community. We'll have a link for that. Again, you can get it either on the podcast, we'll have a link for that, or you can also go to our website, theothersideofmedicine.com, and we have a way you can get into the Gut 911 prescription community there. There at the very top of the website is a gut health quiz. I encourage you to take that. It's free. Take the gut health quiz. We will then send you back a response of my recommendations for any symptoms that you have, and we will determine how to help you with that gut problem that you have. And then you could also then get introduced to the Gut 911 prescription community. So the root causes of the stressed out gut, well, you've got emotional stress we talked about. You have traumatic stressors that happen in your life. You have poor life boundaries that you have inside your life. You let people basically interfere with your life without having boundaries, whether it's at work or whether it's at home. You have to have people's respect, and you have to help people to realize that if you're going through stress, that they need to help and cooperate with you to eliminate these effects from the stress. So again, it's a matter of choices. And again, you have to participate in the healing response. You have to take a proactive role. Once again, the Gut 911 prescription community can give you that additional support. Practice deep breathing. We talked a little bit about that. Most people don't know how to deep breathe. You deep breathe not just 2 or 3 times a day. I recommend doing that for maybe 10, 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day. And you can make it part of your prayer time if you like as well. Deep breathe while you're perhaps praying. You breathe in through your nose deeply, breathe out through your mouth, and purse your lips like you're whistling, like the sound of the wind. So breathe in nice and deep through your nose, and then breathe out through your mouth. Hear that sound of the wind, that whistle. And as you do that, you can close your eyes and you can just imagine being in your happy place. Go to your happy place, wherever that's at. Maybe it's on the beach. Maybe it's, with some friends or family, or maybe it's with your loved one. Go to your happy place. Maybe it's up in the mountain somewhere. Just in your mind's eye, go to your happy place. Do the deep breathing as properly as I just explained. And you do that not only 2 or 3 times a day for 10 or 15 minutes, but throughout the day when you're talking on the phone, when you're on a bus ride or in your car driving. Don't close your eyes when you're doing that. Or you're on a plane, or an airplane, or you're just talking on the telephone, as I said earlier. Whatever you're doing, you could be doing deep breathing to just vent the stress. Put reminders in your home, in your bathroom, on your refrigerator, on your to-do list. Reminders, deep breathe. Put a reminder, Gut 911 prescription community. Just remind yourself about these healthy habits that are going to help to take you to the next level, to help you to overcome these stressors and these toxic lifestyles that the average American is living. Herbs are wonderful, like the Ayurvedic herbs like ashwagandha, or another one, rhodiola. Herbs in America we use are like chamomile. That's a nice calming herb, or ginger. These are herbs that calm. And herbs like ginger and chamomile are soothing to the stomach, as well as peppermint. These are very good for the microbiome, for the good bacteria, as well as calming. So use those things on a regular basis. Oh, and I must not forget, when you make and steep a cup of herbal tea, always pour the boiling water inside of your cup with the tea bag in there, or if you use fresh, the same thing. And once you pour the boiling water in, put a lid on top of the cup. Because if you don't, all the volatile oils will just evaporate out and you'll lose all those medicinal properties. So put a lid on it, maintain that lid on there for 10 or 15 minutes to hold in those volatile oils. So you get the maximum medicinal benefits from the herbal teas. Also, slow your pace down, and especially at meal times. Don't eat if you're stressed. Don't eat in a hurry. Chew your foods well. Chew with your mouth closed. And so make sure that you're not getting air in there causing gas and bloating and that kind of stuff. Oh my goodness gracious. When I was a kid, I heard the Good Humor Man, and that's what I hear right now with the sugar-laden ice cream. You hear them right now? Those are signals to get you to think about eating foods that were foods that you grew up with, maybe, that were not healthy for you. So that's why the Gut 911 prescription community is so important, because we could overcome those temptations from running to the Good Humor Man, from running to the store to get sugar-coated ice cream and sugar-coated candies. You don't want to just continue on living that type of a lifestyle, because you're going to end up like everybody else with chronic disease. Again, prioritize your relaxation throughout the day by deep breathing, by also getting good sleep. making sure that you're getting good quality sleep, and exercising. Very important to release stress. And really interesting research, again, has verified that when you exercise, you increase the beneficial bacteria inside of your gut. So we get so many cross benefits from doing things with a healthy lifestyle when you eat healthy food that's loaded with fiber. High fiber, plant-based foods increase the beneficial bacteria inside your gut. When you eat the refined carbohydrates, the refined sugars, you encourage the growth of the bad bacteria. So you got to stop that. So to recap, what we're trying to do is have a healthy lifestyle to encourage managing stress, decreasing inflammation, getting rid of toxic load inside of our body. And how do we do that? Well, it takes a personal commitment. You have to take a proactive role in your health, and you can't do it alone. We're not able to do it alone. You know, the people in the blue zones, one of the biggest factors that help the people in the blue zone to stay healthy and live a long life into 100 and beyond, they found that because they have a community, a close knitted, tight community of people that they're surrounded by, that help each other every single day to support each other to live that healthy life. And so that's what the Gut 911 prescription does. It's a healthy support group to encourage you, to pick you up when you fall, to encourage you, because we're all going to fall. We're all going to have temptations, and we're going to be drift away. But if we have a support community that's not judgmental, we come back and we help each other out. So my friends, I hope that tonight's episode on the 3 types of gut health problems that millions of Americans have will help you to investigate further, because this is just the first step. The next step is to jump into the Gut 911 prescription community and to learn more, because you just have to continue to learn for the rest of your life. When you stop learning, you stop living. Well, as I hear all these people who live to be in their 90s and 100 years old and beyond, every one of them says they always continue to learn. Our entire life should be a university. Everywhere we go, we should constantly try to learn. So stay in touch, stay tuned, stay healthy, and stick with us. Because if you stick with us, we'll help to heal your gut and fuel your health. So until next week, I hope that you tell your friends about us. Encourage them to listen to The Other Side of Medicine. We're here every single week. Go to The Other Side of Medicine on the webpage, theothersideofmedicine.com. Go to Gut 911 RX on social media like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all those places, or Dr. James Christosic. And I do 2 or 3 videos per day on giving you health tips. And in our Gut 911 prescription community, I have a health tip of the day every day. And don't forget, every second Monday, we have a health topic that we bring only for you. Your exclusive health topic was inside the community, and you can ask me questions and ask people inside the community questions to get answers for your health problems. Until next time, here's to your health.